Stories of resilience and the challenge of the human spirit are mostly fun to watch. Stories of personal journeys that tend to have an actor in isolation are usually even better. The Dark Divide is a new film in limited release and encompasses both those areas I mentioned. But is it done well and worth the watch? In the summer of 1995, renowned butterfly expert Robert Pyle takes a life-changing trek. He goes through one of the largest unprotected wildlands in the US, known as the Dark Divide. David Cross stars as Pyle, and I'm not typically a huge David Cross fan. I find some of his stuff entertaining, I'm just not typically drawn to him. And yes, he is stellar as Tobias in Arrested Development. The story of a character going off on a solo adventure and having to come to terms with their life, their choices, and their beliefs is not a wholly original concept. This film is based on the book by Pyle himself, so it should be a fairly accurate representation of what he went through, or at least his thoughts. Cross is wonderful in the role. I mean, he is a brilliant character, but he is clueless in the outdoors. When he embarks on his trek, he appears to be wildly unprepared, and in this, his looks are not deceiving. I was yelling at the character on the TV multiple times because he would make these choices that were seemingly stupid, or he would go out and do something and was just obviously very ill-prepared for what he was about to do. I mean, he was starting this massive journey and really didn't have the supplies that he needed. And then it didn't even look like he was prepared should bad scenarios happen. I mean, I was shaking my head multiple times like, dude, you should not be alive, or this is so frustrating to watch because, don't you know any better? Didn't you ever go camping? And maybe he didn't. We don't get that little bit of information. But even though Cross comes across as naive or ignorant on some things, he really did begin to grow on me. I slowly began to root for the character and wanted him to succeed and not get eaten by a bear or a wolf or fall off a mountain. The scenery in this is wonderful to look at, and for the most part, the cinematography is really good. But there are a few times where the camera needed to be on a gimbal because it was just way too shaky to be able to see any of the action going on. Or other times, the camera was so close to the character that we couldn't see anything that was actually happening. There was no scale to what the character was going through. I mean, I'm okay with some close-up shots to establish what's going on, or that we can see some of the direness that is happening or the claustrophobia as an action is happening, but then pull us back also and let us see the true scale and scope of what he is experiencing as well. So when that happened, when it would be so close for so long and we would just lose perspective of what was really happening, it turned what was an exciting scene, or at least what could have been a really exciting scene, into more of a scene that was just kind of like, meh. There were a couple of times that I felt that the filmmakers gave the character some outs when it came to situations. They just resolved a situation and then we went on our way, and I really would have preferred to see this man who is inexperienced, who is trying to literally figure everything that he is doing out, to work through it, for us to see him work through that problem and come out successful. I mean, even with them doing that though, it didn't hurt the narrative too much because I was still enjoying the story and enjoying the character. The story is slow, but it's also compelling. I mean, I was being drawn in as each moment of the story passed, and it was also helped along greatly because I was watching the character of Pyle grow through each of his experiences. This is really an emotional journey as well for Pyle because he is mourning the loss of somebody very close to him. And so we get to see that come into play, and it helps fuel some of his motivations to succeed, to go and to continue on. But then you can also see how it might fuel some of his motivations to just give up. And so that internal conflict that he has as he goes about his duties or his trek, it's great to watch. Again, I think Cross is a wonderful choice for the character of Pyle because he's not necessarily somebody that you would choose to go on a wilderness expedition. And that is exactly the point, that this guy is so unassuming when you see him and you think there is no way in the world this dude is going to be going on a hike. And then you would find out how long the hike is and you're like, oh, no way, there is no way in the world this dude is doing it. And then if he goes on it, well, bye, we're never gonna see you again. The soundtrack is a lot of fun in this also. It's mainly folksy and melodic. It's certainly something that I'm gonna add to my Spotify playlist so I can enjoy from time to time. So if you get the chance to see this in the theatrical limited release, or you're able to watch it through one of the virtual cinema beneficiary type things that the studio has set up, then I don't think you're gonna be disappointed. It's a great watch and well worth the time. There's no sex, some nudity, a lot of profanity, and some violence. I give The Dark Divide 4 out of 5 couches. Do you have a favorite Journey of the Human Spirit type movie? I think mine is The Way with Martin Sheen, but I'd love to know yours in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for catching with me.